and gentlemen, you did not read the YouTube title or the thumbnail wrong. Pokemon Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, where Draft had its birth origins, is coming back. And not only is it coming back, it's coming back to the channel. We are going to be uploading Generation 6 Draft League Wi-Fi videos here on the channel. So if that is of interest to you, please like, comment, subscribe right now. I am Soulblaze, your coach of the Also City Dragon Dancers Pokemon Draft League YouTuber. This is going to be the draft analysis video that we're going to be doing. I'm hosting my own Gen 6 Wi-Fi draft. You heard it right. You heard it here first. Go share it with your friends who were once started their draft careers in Gen 6 Wi-Fi. This is going to be a fantastic video. Settle right in. So, in this tournament, of course, you know when I'm hosting a tournament, you know I rig that shit! Obviously, I didn't rig it. RNG's is looking out for me. Shoutouts to you, though. Shoutouts to you, dog. So, being first pick in my own Gen 6 Wi-Fi draft, what do you think I scooped up? None other than the Beast himself, or the Beast herself. The one and only strongest Mega in Gen 6. The one. The only Mega Gardevoir, baby! Mega Gardevoir is our first pick of the Also City Dragon Dancers. We scooped this up for the max total points. This is a draft league where we're going to be having a little bit more points to dabble with. We spent the top dollar dog for the Mega Gardevoir. Look at this beauty. 165 base special attack. Dual stab coverage. Fairy being the new typing of Gen 6, the best typing in the game. It has amazing offensive coverage. As you can see in the moves right there, I've listed some common moves that this thing is going to be running in the season and that it does like in general. Obviously, I'm not going to list everything. I'm going to keep some things a secret for playoffs, baby. But like, as you can see, it has the amazing ability, unnerfed in Gen 6, Pixelate, which is basically... in later gens, it gets nerfed from 1.3 times damage to 1.2 times. It is a life orb that doesn't take you HP for using damaging moves. And it's crazy. And it converts your normal moves to fairy moves, which is the best typing in the game. That is crazy. So now we can use moves like Hyper Voice. They get a 1.3 times damage boost. It's behind sub. And they are fairy type, which is amazing. Of course, it also got some utility in the Will-O-Wisp, in the Wish, in the Heal Bell. Obviously, that HP stat is not something you want to wish pass with. So, nothing to write home about there. The physical defense is also not too strong. Base 100 speed is pretty good. It's like the benchmark for Gen 6 speed. If you have anything that's over 100, it's going to be really fast. 100 is fast. Anything below 100 that can be considered slightly less fast, like in the 80 range, or just like slow in the like 80 range. So base 100 speed is definitely easy speed tier to build around. Really nice, solid, fundamental start for your boy. Mega Gardevoir is coming to the team. It does have the 3 weaknesses in Ghost, Poison, Steel, though there you can say something about each of them. I'm going to be coming back to Steel a little later, but obviously, if you have a fairy, you're going to be pairing it with a Steel and Dragon to form a core with Fairy Dragon Steel. So you're going to be taking one of the Steels off the board yourself. Poison, you kind of cover poisons with your Psychic typing. You have also a very respectable SPDEF stat of 135. So if it's in terms of special poison types, I think we're covered. And in terms of the physical ones, like, yeah, maybe Crobat can be scary, but then again, like, if it's faster than me, it's going to hit less hard. If it's slower than me, I can pretty much, I can fire off Psychic moves, and it's not going to take him pretty. Psychic Dark types as well, I can hit him for neutral with Fairy. So it's kind of not a telltale all solution for it either. Ghost types are not as prominent in Gen 6. Like, they're obviously really great typing. Don't underestimate me. I'm talking a lot in this video. Don't underestimate me there. Ghost type is a great typing, but there's few of them. You know, the ghosts that have been running havoc in Draft League that you know about, the modern day, the luxury that you're used to, Dragapult, 142 speed, Goldango, good as gold, Ghost Steel typing. Can't see him anywhere. They ain't to be seen. We got stuff that is faster, like Froslass and Gengar, but like, you know, you can't have a Mon that's weak to nothing, so it's got to have some weaknesses, but for all of that, we get amazing coverage. Hidden powers are in the game. If there's something that's got weak to something and we don't have the coverage in our pool, we can slot HP there. We have very, very workaroundable weaknesses. We have a great ability. We have great base stat total, great base typing. Mega Gardevoir, I love you. I would never let you fall into the dirty, dirty hands of whoever came second after me. So just let you know, my princess is, my queen is in great hands, and that's going to be Mikola. Well, although Mikola in the game, I believe. Doesn't matter. He is my queen! So Mega Gardevoir has definitely joined the squad. I've never used this thing before. It's amazing. I can't speak highly enough about it. Really happy to be scooping this up. Whoever got first pick in the draft is obviously scooping this up. So tough luck to whoever got affected by the rigging, aka RNG sis. That is just how the things, that's just how the wheel turns the turntables. So when you're first pick, the draft order moves on, right? To second coach, third coach, fourth coach, or fifth coach, and so on and so forth. It goes all the way to the last coach. There's 12 coaches in this league. So the 12th coach, which just so happens to be Ducky, totally not rigged. So he gets to pick twice, and it comes all the way back to me, and then I pick twice. So every other pick in this league right here, it's going to be coupled with something. So I'm drafting in pairs, so just keep that in mind. We're going to be talking about the Mons one by one, just to cover them, but just know they were drafted as a pair, so they might have a little bit of synergy with each other as well. So, by the time it gets back to me, there's a lot of threats on the board that are really good to pair with Mega Gardevoir that you want to pair it with that are going to be gone, because obviously they are first round picks, and unless they are completely oblivious, they are never going to let that come back to you, just as I am not going to let Mega Gardevoir get to them. So the stuff like, we're talking Landorus Therian, no shot, that's gone. We're talking Weavile, that's gone. We're talking Kyurem Black, no shot, that's gone. We're talking Gen 6 unnerfed Gale Wings Talonflame, that's gone. You know, stuff like that is going to be off the board. But we did manage to scoop a Mon that I'm really happy about that does have a Gen 6 quirk that has not been nerfed yet. I think I've used this Pokemon probably 1 or 2 times in the past, so not the most familiar with it. I'm actually more familiar with its other form, so I'm pretty excited to use it. But I know it's strong, it covers speed that we need, gives us a little bit of a nice resistance pool, and obviously it's more offensive utility, and what more can you ask for? It's going to be the one and only Zeus Ex Machina Thunderous Incarnate, baby. 111 speed pairs fantastically with base 100. I cannot stress that enough. They play off each other all the time. These two are going to come to a lot of games. That's all I'm saying. They play off each other nice. It has a key resistance to steel, which we talked about earlier. So when I'm forming my Fairy Dragon Steel Core, that's going to be something to keep a note of, that this is a resistance to steel, which can be nice to have. Doesn't really do that much versus poison and ghosts, but you know, it has Dark Pulse and Psychic, so it can hit them. It has a Nasty Plot set. Base 125 special attack is pretty good. But you might be saying, Soul, why you're drafting a special attacker with Mega Gardevoir? Don't you want a physical attacker? Well, look at the physical attack stat. It's 115. It can run physical as well. It has Prankster, which is unnerfed, so you can't come in with your dark types and even if you could, you know, it's Mega Gardevoir with fairy type attacks. But it's Prankster that can be blocked by dark types, so I can spam 100% accurate Thunder Waves, slow things down. I can hit them with, if I want to run this thing physical, it gets a U-turn. I can run knockoff. I can knock off items like Choice Scarf that want to be faster than Mega Gardevoir, for example. Stuff like that. Really nice offensive support. It hits hard. It's a nice Scarfer, nice Specs user, nice Life Orb user. It can run a bunch of items. It can run Resist Berries. It can run Citrus. It can run Power Herb. It can run anything above and beyond. So Zeus Ex Machina Thunderous Eye is a really, really nice one. Also gives us a key ground immunity very early on. Ground types are very prominent. They're very good. A lot of good ones. You have Mamoswine, which obviously in this case you weak to ice, as you can see. But you have Crocodile. You have, you know, a lot of good like offensive rock types. No, rock types, ground types. Speaking of rock types, though, this is weak to rocks, and there is no heavy-duty boots in the game yet. So this is a Pokemon that loves to run heavy-duty boots in Gen 8. I'm not going to be able to do that, and I don't have recovery, so the best thing I can do is pass off a Scuffed Wish. But it is worth noting that This thing has excellent positional skills. If you pair this with more U-turn, more Volt Switch, lower fast. If you pair this with removal, you know, it's gonna be great. But Stealth Rocks are gonna be a little bit of an issue. We don't have any resist to it yet. We don't have anything to remove it yet, and we take super effective damage coming in. So that is something we're gonna be a little bit wary of as we move on forward. But as I said, we just drafted in pairs. So not only is my next pick someone who can remove rocks, someone who is another key or grants some other key resistances and immunities to weaknesses on my team, but it also is able to have recovery. So even though it comes in on rocks, it can heal up and get rid of them. And it's also, might I add you, it's starting to form a core here. It is Caesar Millennia Blade of Miquella. So the thing is, this thing is only weak to fire. We have no resistance to fire yet, but that can be fixed. Like, you see there's a lot of draft picks left, right? We can fix that fire weakness back up later. It has one of the strongest bullet punches in the game. One of the strongest. Stab from being a steel type. Technician boosted because it's below 60 base power, I believe. Or 60 base power. It is Technician boosted, which makes it even more scary. And it's off of a monstrous 130 attack stat. That is going to be run with Adamant Nature, Choice Band, Life Orb, you name it. This thing is one of the strongest bullet punches in the game. You have things like Metagross, you have things like that can do non-stab technicians, like Hit Up, for example. But this thing just screams bullet punch. And taking this off the board for Miquella just makes sense lore-wise with their fitting nicknames of each other. They want to protect each other. We have the Knight in red shining armor, Millennia right here, taking away bullet punch and fending off the threats that want to come for Miquella, Mega Gardevoir's life. Key immunity to poison. Another resistance to steel while being a steel type itself with bullet punch. Taking that away. Removing rocks for Thunderous. It has recovery. It can toxic stall things. It has great physical coverage in Aerial Ace, Quick Attack, Bug Bite. That's also going to be Technician boosted. It has other sets it can run. It has Sword Stance Bullet Punch. It has Agility Iron Head. It has a bunch of things it can do. It can even run Tanky Counter, where it can be more supportive with Tailwind and be backed off, or go for that slow stab, not Technician boosted, but stab 130 base attack U-turn. That's going to pair so nicely with the pivoting skills of Thunderous Eye. So I'm really happy to scoop this up. Makes sense lore-wise. It only makes sense to draft the Queen with the Knight in Shining Armor, and the protection there is so good as well. So it's just a matter of fixing up some fire weakness. Obviously, it's a steel type that doesn't resist rock, so that is also a little bit of a problem right now. We don't have anything to resist stealth rock. So, again, now it's going to take some time before it comes back to me, and by the time it came back to me right now, this being a league with more points, I figured we need to spend to cover our weaknesses. And speed is an issue still. You might not believe it. You're like, oh, you have bullet punch priority, you have 111, 100 speeds, you have 100% accurate prankster TV. Like, what speed issues are there to worry about? But trust me, there are some demons in this format that you want to make sure that you can handle in the 130, 140, 150 range that are going to be hitting very hard still that you want to take care of. So we have to go a little bit higher. And that is also a typing that is starting to form a core. Fits very nicely on our team. Some people might say it's a little bit overpriced just because of its ability select. It's only able to go one of its abilities. The two other abilities are banned, which should clue you in a little bit. I'm of course speaking of Greninja. I want to be Greninja. Shun Kazami Greninja is here. Gives us a very, very valuable speed stat. And the reason we're drafting this speed stat right now is because if we wait, we delay this issue, we don't confront it, we don't tackle it right now while we can, draft one of those mons that have a little bit power behind them, a little bit utility behind them. Greninja is going to be one of those mons that you really want to respect its speed tier, because if you don't, it can start to 3-layer spike you, it can set up toxic spikes, it can cast taunt, shut down your tanky mons, it can hit hard, it has priority, it has physical moves, special moves, yeah, it can go physical and special, and it has really great coverage. It can also run Spec Set, it can run Scarf Set, it has pivoting with U-turn, with the Caesar, with the Thunderous. You really want to look out for this mon right here. Though it has a lot of weaknesses in its pool, to fighting, to bug, to fairy, to grass, to electric. You already know. I feel like we're starting to build a resist pool that's pretty good. Does it resist fire for Caesar? Yes, so we're already starting there. Of course, 72, 67, and 71 are not the greatest defense stats of all time. Like, this is not going to tank anything between heaven, hell, and earth. Of course, there are some moves like pretty much like boosted overheats or heat waves or lava plumes or, you know, whatever you have it, flamethrowers, fire blasts, whatever you have it, that Greninja might still get 2-hit KO'd by because it is so offensive and frail. We might have to position use our positioning skills to save it a little bit on that front. But trust you me, this thing has anything. It has priority, and I believe, yeah, it has Shadow Sneak, and it has a multi-hit stab priority move in Water Shuriken, which can come in handy. And all of those things that I just mentioned on top of that. So it really pairs well. And those things that Greninja is weak to, I feel like we can cover for pretty well. We have really nice fighting resists, like Mega Gardevoir, despite fighting being a primarily physically attacking typing. Like, you have the Conkeldurs, you have the Hariyamas, you have the, you know, Mega Gallades, you have the Yanshaos, like, you have all of those being primarily physical, right? Base 65 defense is not anything super, so we can still come in on some fighting type attacks because we quad resist them, which is pretty nice. So it kind of creates a 50-50. Do you want to use Poison Jab or Iron Head, predicting that to come in? If you use Poison, Greninja's not going to take neutral from that. If you choose for Iron Head, we have the resistances on Greninja itself, we have the resistance on Caesar, and we have the resistance on Thundurus Incarnate. So we have really good steel resistances. Bug, we also have a resistance to on Caesar and Thundy. We also have a quad resistance to grass. Electric, we don't really have a resist to right now, just because of the fact that Thundurus doesn't have Volt Absorb like its other form does. So electric is a little bit of a problem, and still also takes neutral from rocks. So our removal options in Defog Caesar, like Caesar has a lot of pressure on it right now, and the Bullet Punch to Defog to keep it bruised, you know. So of course, when I talked about drafting in pairings, I drafted another Mon that I feel fit very well to cover those weaknesses of the team specifically. Removing hazards, resisting electric that we talked about, resisting rocks, being able to remove rocks. It is none other than the Dawn! It is Oslo City Dragon Dancer's favorite champion. You already know we won a championship with this Mon back in, I believe, September of 2023 or something like that, in our first Gen 9 Wi-Fi league, where we played Zombie in the finals. It was a banger, absolute banger series of videos that came out of that. And Dawn Fan didn't start with us in the season, but we were able to talk some of the coaches in the league and gaslight them into trading us Dawn Fan mid-season too, because I didn't have a ground type at the time. So this is a Mon that a lot of people wanted on their teams naturally, because it's one of the best spinners in terms of like how tanky it is. It gives me some much needed physical defense for, you know, we already know, we talked about Mega Gardevoir being very specially defensive. Now we have a little bit more physical bulk. Of course, that goes for Caesar as well. But not to mention, this can also run a special variant of it with, like, if you invest in Spadef, if you run Assault Vest. And it's also a rocker. Though we have spikes and T-spikes on Greninja, we don't really have Stealth Rocks on the team yet. So that is also really nice to get cover. Sturdy is a good ability, although if you are coming in on rocks to try and remove them, Sturdy kind of auto goes away. And you do resist Stealth Rocks, and you can kind of get back up with leftovers. So you don't really get anything outside of rest, or, you know, that poor Scoped Wish that we talked about earlier. To really fix that yet. But, you know, you got the knockoffs, you can remove items, you got even more priority. My team is starting to become really priority good right now. We have the Ice Shard from the Dawn Fen, we have the Water Shuriken, Shadow Sneak, Greninja, we have the very strong Bullet Punch, which can help mediate some of this middling speed. Like, we do have really nice speed, don't get me wrong. Like, we have the 122, the 111, the 100, but from 100 and down to Caesar and down to my tanks, there's really nothing super scary there yet, just because Caesar doesn't really run speed because it wants to go adamant Bullet Punch. And of course, you don't get speed from Rapid Spin, which is a luxury of later gens, so that you guys get to enjoy. Has not come into effect yet, but that is not to say that Donphan doesn't do things. 120 attack, 120 defense, really respectable still. Very nice rock rapid spin. It can roar out threats. It can set up iron defense and become super tanky. It can slow things down with bulldoze. It has coverage moves and play rough and gunk shot and rock slide and stone edge and superpower and head smash and yeah, damn, the Dawn does everything. So don't disrespect the Dawn. It has been doing the same thing since Gen 2, but if that's a good thing, I'm sure we will be fine. The Dawn has joined the squad. So now there is a little bit of uptime again until it comes back to me, and this is, I'm going to be honest with you, this is where the draft goes in a direction that only I and only I would. This is very the next two picks are very interesting in how they work with each. Okay, so we're going to tackle them one at a time. And you might look at them and you might say like, how does this pair good? But we're going to go through it. So give me a little bit of patience and I will reward it. The next pick is Conkeldurr. Do we have strong attackers, physical attackers now? Yes, Greninja can run physical, although primary special. Same with Thundurus. We do have physical attacking Donphan. We do have physical attacking Caesar. You have the Bullet Punch. What do you need like a Mach Puncher, right? But the thing I thought about with Conkeldurr is that fighting is a type that you really want to have strong offense on. You really want a respectable fighting type on your team that's going to be scary to switch into. And Conkeldurr just fit the bill for me because of the fact that it has the Mach Punch. It actually, though it's pretty slow at base 45, if it utilizes Mach Punch to take down some of the threats that are faster, say faster Steel types for Mega Gardevoir, some things are starting to click. You can take those down with Punch. And then, of course, who sets up rocks or Thundurus? Well, that's going to be Rock type, right? So you have a resistance to those, another resistance to Stealth Rock, which is sorely needed. Itself, it's weak to Fairy, which, you know, we have Bullet Punch for, so it kind of works with Caesar. And then, of course, weak to Flying, which we have Thundurus for. We don't really have another Flying weakness on the team, so that's not really a problem. And then, of course, we have a weakness to Psychic, which we can cover with Greninja's immunity and Gardevoir's resist. Psychic being primarily known to be a special attacking type, though it wants to abuse my low Spadef. We already talked about adding some physical bulk. This is kind of physically bulky on 105.95, but we have we're starting to get some mixed defense here as well. But it's also the fact that this can become a very crucial status absorber for them. Because just as I talked about slowing things down with 100% accurate Thunder Waves, for example, others might want to do that to me. Or they might want to abuse the fact that I don't have that much recovery on the team. They might want to Toxic my non-immune Caesars that have Roost, for example. Mega Gardevoir. Thundurus, my Greninja, my Donphan, they might set up E-Spikes, and even though I remove them, I might get some Mons poisoned. Or they might want to burn my Caesar, you know? So having Guts in the back is pretty good for punishing some of these things. Because if you give Conkeldurr with base 140 attack a Guts boost, I will personally be pulling out the Bible for you. You will not survive. Does it have the much needed knockoff for ghost types? It has that as well. It is even more item removal. Our knockoffs are looking great despite having a dark that doesn't have stab knockoff. You have knockoff on the Thundy, knockoff on the Caesar, knockoff on the Donphan, knockoff on the Kong, so they can kind of alleviate each other on where I want to put it. More priority. Priority is one of the best categories in the game because it doesn't have a prominent counter outside of stronger priority. So unless you want a stronger priority me, I'm going to priority abuse you. And it doesn't matter that I have low speed. It is one of several ways that I'm covering up my speed tiers. I'm drafting tanks that can go fast. That is pretty hard to deal with. So doesn't matter that you're 150 base speed Mega Aerodactyl, you're dropping to the Guts boosted Mach Punch. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, that's why I wanted this Conkeldurr for. Is it a bit of a personal influence in this pick? Absolutely. Never really drafted and used this before too, so I'm very excited to be using this on Wi-Fi. It has a bunch of variants it can run, but of course it can also run defensive value. It hasn't gotten the defog yet, so none of that, but it can Toxic stuff, it can bulk up setup, it can counter based off its good defense. It has great coverage moves. So that is Conkeldurr, Uncle Punch Senior will be joining the squad. We just won a tournament with Uncle Punch Junior, so Uncle Punch Senior is only appropriate. Punch Senior joins the team. But once again, I will be mentioning this every time. Not drafted alone. It's been drafted with something else. And you might say, oh boy, do you want to draft something to cover up that one flying weakness of yours? I say hell no to that. I say, not scared of those flying. I got what it takes. Don't you worry about it. My team might be a little bit weak to Talonflame right now. We're drafting Tangrowth, and Tangrowth is a mon that I personally can cook with. It has a lot of weaknesses, but I do believe that we can counter some of those. In terms of defensive utility, being a tank, it does have some key weaknesses with some other defensive members, making it hard, but it's only in like 2 or 3. So it's like, for example, with Donphin and Thundurus, you stack Ice, which I have Bullet Punch and Mach Punch for right now, which is pretty good. And then I have the Fire with the Caesar, and then I have the Flying with the Conkeldurr. So there are some, and then I have even the Bug Weaker Ninja, so Poison with Mega Gardevoir. So basically, this stacks a weakness with every other member on my team in some way, shape, or form. So why did you draft Tangrowth? Well, I'll tell you. First of all, regen is the best ability in the game. I don't care what your opinion is. I don't care. You're entitled to it. You can say it's something else than regen, but you would be respectfully wrong. Because regen, obviously, when it comes to a game such as Pokemon where it's turn-based and it's about you win when your opponent has 0 health left, if you can gain health to stop yourself from losing, that is one of the best ways to establish progress in the game. It's kind of like if you played chess and every time you took a piece, you gain that piece. Every time you move, you gain a piece. It's like, what? Like you gain a pawn or something. What? It's so broken. And it's got a pretty good HP stat to abuse that too. So every time it does get regen, it actually gains a lot of HP back. It gains recovery by itself. So it has the Synthesis and Morning Sun that it can use on top of Giga Drain, which is stab can hit for super effective with Grass Offense, which is pretty okay for some of the like tough ground types that can be hard to break through if I want to, like if Greninja drops to something really random or something. So it gets good coverage in HPs as well. Obviously, it can set up. It can just sit on some mons with like Leech Seed and Toxic. It's not quad weak to something, so even though you want to run it for it, it can be pretty hard to handle. Runs a fantastic Assault Vest set as well. Even though it does stack weakness, have a lot of weaknesses. Even if it takes a super effective hit, it's not like it dies. So it can just swap out, get the regen, come back, and deal with that issue later. So Tangrowth is definitely going to be coming to some matchups and sit on some mons. It can be seen as a little bit passive, I get that, but it does get some offensive sets, it does get some defensive sets. It's a very utility tank for being a grass type. It also gives me some more sleep immunity. If you've been playing draft and you've been watching some of my draft league battles, you know that sleep is strong. So for stuff like Amoonguss and Breloom and just like Force and Sleep Powders and Hypnosis, well, I guess Hypnosis. Tangrowth is fat, but he dodges. So, so obviously Tangrowth is there for those kind of reasons. It's just tank utility. I feel like I got so good offensive utility that I really want to have tank utility. I want some mons that can switch into things, despite adding some, like making my kind of defensive cheat a little. So that is Tangrowth. It's also just a pick for love. We love Tangrowth here. We've been able to cook with it in the past, so I'm really excited to see that. I've run Pekka-Berry Tangrowth in the past versus my good friend Murkit, specifically predicting him to Toxic me over any other status, so that if he status me any other way, can't get Toxic, but I specifically predicted the Toxic, and that's kind of some fun things you can do with Tangrowth. Also, I specifically a lover of running Chinese sets, so that's going to be really interesting to use Tangrowth. It can run mixed offense too, so it's not really swaying my composition in any favor. Next up, we have 2 more picks, drafting as a pair, you know, that hasn't changed. Right now we have the fairy, we have the steel, we have the water, we have the grass, but we're missing the fire and we're missing the dragon. Spoiler alert. We're drafting a fire dragon. I'm just kidding. But we are drafting a dragon. It is going to be Dragolge, one of my favorite dragons. It is very underrated. It is slow, yes. It doesn't really add much in terms of speed, but it is another Toxic Spike user along with Greninja. So it kind of alleviates some of the duty. It is a Toxic Spikes absorber. If you've been watching Joey Pokemon MD, if you've been ordering his Moo Juice online and drinking that, you will have had the epiphany that you need grounded poison types in every draft league game that you bring. Because obviously, you don't want your team, like as we talked about earlier, though Conkeldurr is there to proc guts, it still takes damage from poison. Like, my team, like hazard-wise, does get a little run over. So it's nice to have, like, I have the Rapid Spin, I have the Defog, but I don't really have anything specific for Toxic Spikes. Just kind of why it's nice to add that as well. It's also, if I don't want to proc guts on Conkeldurr, I can also, and I don't want to hard predict going from Tangrowth to Caesar because of a fire, I can go Dragolge, for example. Because I'm not scared of a Toxic on Dragolge, but I'm very scared of Toxic on Tangrowth, and I might not want to switch Caesar in at every opportunity because although it's tanky on the physical side, people can run HP Fire for it. This thing, it's harder to run HPs for. It's very Spadef tanky. Now, in the last couple of picks, we've added some physical bulk in the Caesar, the Donphan, the Conkeldurr, and the Tangrowth. So my 4 last picks were physically bulky. We're kind of swaying it a little back to special bulk. Very nice pair with Mega Gardevoir as well, resisting that poison as well in terms of poison offense. It is, again, we're seeing a little bit of an ice weakness right now in the Donphan, in the Tangrowth, the Dragolge, in the Tornadus. No, Thundurus, sorry. And Greninja isn't really a nice resist for ice. So that is a little bit of a problem with this team, but I'm choosing to solve it offensively with Bullet Punch, Mach Punch, and just nice speed. Stuff like that. And also my mons are very tanky, so unless it's set up ice, chances are I can live. This thing has adaptability, one of my top 3 favorite abilities. My 3 favorite abilities, if you didn't know, it is Mole Breaker is my favorite ability. Trace is my second favorite ability. Spoiler, we actually have Trace on the team. I just haven't talked about it. It is Gardevoir pre-Mega. You can Trace it. You can come in and abuse something for its own ability, like Water Absorb versus Water types, for example. Come in and heal. And then you can Mega Evolve and get the Pixelite. We do have Trace on the team. And my third one, that is going to be Adaptive. My fourth favorite one is Regen, and we have that too. So Adaptability is just one of those abilities that goes unnoticed. The damage output is beyond insane. This thing has basically 100 special attack, stab, choice specs, 252 modest, adaptability boosted Draco. If you don't have a fairy type, you get mollywopped by this thing. You get sent to a different dimension for a while from this thing. You better pray Draco misses. So strong dragon offense, and I don't really have that much use for speed that's really high, so don't really need a fast dragon, which does give me a little bit of a disadvantage versus other dragons. But having one of the strongest fairy, like having the arguably strongest fairy type in the game, not really worried about. I feel like I can draft this and still be fine. I'm excited to use Dragolge as well. Zombie inspired me to kind of draft it, having it on its own team. I know Dragolge doesn't get Flip Turn yet, which is part of what makes it really good, but it does have some tools it can use. It can do shift things around with Dragon Tail. It can stop setup with Haze. It can do some T-Spike Venoshock stuff. Venom Drench is there. It can Scald Burn stuff. It can 100% accurate Toxic stuff and have Black Sludge, and then if you trick it, you do damage to them. It runs a fantastic Assault Vest set, which is already convincing Ducky that this is a great Pokemon if you know him. He loves Assault Vest. Got a lot of bunch of great Assault Vest users. Might just have to bring 6 Assault Vest now. He's gonna be seeing this video after we battle. Maybe before, actually. Well, no, actually before. He's definitely gonna be seeing this before. Ducky, I'm bringing 6 Assault Vest. Prepare your ass up for this. prepare your asshole for 6-12 fest. It's coming. So that's going to be funny. It has a lot of stuff it can do. It hits incredibly hard. Star Scourge, the Dragulge, is here. I feel like it slots the team pretty good for a dragon. It was either between this and Haxorus, and I felt like my physical offense was getting pretty good, so I wanted a little bit more special insurance right there. But now that we completed the Fairy Steel Dragon Core, and I have another pick on pair, I was thinking maybe we just fix the water, grass, and fire. So although we don't draft a fire dragon type, we might just draft a dragon and a fire type. Look who's next. It is going to be Ninetales, Vixen of Ash. So in the Smogon Gen 9 Winter Seasonal, I drafted Ninetales Alola. Had some really good experience using that. And of course, now Ninetales does provide us with a little bit of utility that is kind of out there. I'm going to try and spitball this a little bit. Why are you drafting Caesar with Ninetales? It has Drought, it sets the sun, it boosts fire moves. It's already weak to, giving it less of a chance to do things. It also hurts your Tangrowth. It also hurts your team in general, as your water type is not that switching in pretty and allowing solar beams. Your Dragulge might be handling both solar beam and fire, but if it handles both of those, maybe that makes it an obvious switch. You know? Why are you drafting that? Well, there's a couple of reasons. First of all, I need the fire. I feel like the speed tier is also nice on it. A secondary 100 is pretty nice. It's got some weaknesses that I feel like I'm fit to cover. When it comes to ground, Tangrowth sits on those all day. When it comes to water, Tangrowth sits on all those all day. When it comes to rocks, Donphan, Conkeldurr, and Caesar sits on those pretty much all day. If not, Mach Punch and Bullet Punch covers it. And the fun thing here is, that I'm going to try and surprise some people with. So if you're watching this video and you play me in the season, might wanna look out for this specific heat literal tech right here. Tangrowth does not only get Regenerator as its ability. I'm only listing the most common ability per Pokemon. It also gets a secondary ability, which is called Chlorophyll, which doubles its speed in Sun. So if I set the Sun and I double Tangrowth's speed, if Tangrowth runs absolute max speed, it becomes faster than 145 base speed Excelgor, and it will absolutely destroy you if you have a bad matchup versus Grass. I will Solar Beam you. I will boosted growth you. I will get 75% restoration for health, so which to make up for regen in Morning Sun and in Synthesis. And I can run a little bit of speed, still outspeed most of your team, be super tanky, and sit on you in Sun, Leech Seed and Toxic. Incredibly annoying. And I can just protect out my own Sun for in 5 turns, and then just sit there. And that's kind of a little bit of a combo that is going to be harder to see coming, and it's going to twist some matchups in my favor that you're not ready for. It's also going to be covering speed above Greninja, which you might not see coming outside of priority. So that is a little hidden tech that I'm putting in there. Obviously, Regenerator being the best ability in the game, Tangrowth is going to want to run those times, but I think it's a funny little my flavoring. And it also completes my core. And if I run Regen Tangrowth and I still want to bring Ninetales as a fire type, for example, to ice, because it's just ice, then I can run the very, very nice ability, the other ability that it has that is not listed. Flash Fire, which gives me immunity to fire, which is really good for Caesar. So now Caesar and Tangrowth can come with, and I block fire completely, increasing my special attack. And I hit you harder with fire moves that you were planning to bring for me. So that is pretty cool. It gets Solar Beam, it gets, with the Drought, it gets pretty fast Disable, it gets, Will-O-Wisp, which is pretty nice for shutting down physical attackers. Me being a little bit more Spadef bulky, as we talked about a lot of physical bulk, so we have another a little bit Spadef bulk. Mon, we can work things out, we have HP coverage, we have Nasty Plot set, so you can't let this thing just sit there either. We can try and sleep things with Hypnosis. There is so many things we can do. We can sack ourselves with Grudge for or Spike for we can sack ourselves with Grudge for positional purposes to get Mega Gardevoir in safely. We can spite things, we can spite moves that threaten my team and run them out of PP so they can't use it anymore. Just general coverage. We can trap things with Fire Spin. I think Ninetales was a great combo with what I already had. I'm not the biggest fan of drafting like solo types, but I really gave it a shot this draft league. Solo ground, the solo fighting, the solo grass, and the solo fire. Hopefully that works out for me. I feel like my resist pool is pretty covered with the defensive mons. And so we will be moving on to the final pairing. Because actually the last mon was drafted by itself. So the last pairing that I'm drafting with this, it is kind of just utility. I'm going to be straight up completely honest with you right now. It is just utility. They stack typings and weakness. They don't have any super scary offensive presence. They don't really do much for speed tiers, but they are very, and I mean very, strong utility pick, which means that I can slot one of them or both of them with these scary mons right here to amp up their strengths, their defensive utility, their offensive. So they are kind of very supportive in a way. And the first one of them, that's going to be the Smeargle. The Smeargle, as you can see, the attack and special attack, you're not going to be wanting to use those. The Technician that we talked about is a really nice ability because Caesar has it. We've already talked about what makes that nice. Being a mono normal type gives me a key immunity to Ghost because I don't want Greninja to be the only resist. Although base 35 defense and base 45 special defense is nothing that's going to tank anything. The fact that it's an immunity and does no damage might actually give me a chance to live. Pretty cool. With these stats, you might even think that Shadow Ball does damage to this thing, but it does not. But its strength comes in the move pool. As you can see right there, if you can read English, almost every available move in the game. And I'm talking almost single. That means it gets Sticky Web. That means it gets 100% accurate Spore, putting you to sleep. That means it gets Rapid Spin. That means it gets Stealth Rock. That means it gets Spikes, T-Spikes. It gets Priority. It gets very high base power moves to make up for low stats. It can swap its bad stats over to the opponent. It can copy setup. It can stop setup. It can pretty much do anything you want it to do. And that is what makes this mon scary. It does have some limitations, but the move pool is so strong that when this hits the field, you have to pretty much be prepared for anything. And it can hard counter specific teams by utility alone. So this mon is like 6 mon to bring if I have like a lot of trouble making my offense or defense work together in a matchup. This can kind of glue them right together. Slap that flex glue right on there. You know, the team is solved. The team is fixed. Praise the Lord. So Smeargle is here for that reason. It also makes my fighting, like my sheet, look a little prettier. I have really good fighting swaps in Thundurus, in the quad Mega Gardevoir, in the tanky Donphan and Tangrowth on the physical side, and the Dragulge also resisting. So there's that. I did mention that the pairing to this was also going to be the same typing, so that is a little bit spoiler. But I've been talking in this video a lot about how you don't want to use the Scuffed Wish support from what's it called? Mega Gardevoir. And if you look at this HP stat, it's not going to solve the issue with Wish either, even though I do believe it does get Wish because of Sketch. So yeah, that doesn't solve the issue either. So we still have a Wish problem, we still have a little bit of HP recovery problem, and that is when we slot the Cleric. Though I think this gets Heal Bell and Mega Gardevoir gets Heal Bell, this gets Heal Bell too. It's another regen Pokemon, so it gives me a Regenerator Core on it. It has a very strong Wish support off of base 103 P-Stat. Only has one weakness which pairs well with stuff like Mega Gardevoir, which I very much want to Wish past too without running Wish myself on it. It also gets screens with Light Clay, making my defense better on making suddenly Greninja being able to switch into ice moves on Light Screen. Making, suddenly, for example, the Dragulge being able to switch into physical psychic moves because of Reflect. You know, stuff like that. It can Trick Room support, it can yawn things around on the rocks, 100% accurate T-Wave, another Toxicer, it can Encore things stuck, another Knock Offer. We have Knock Off in so many different mons like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Smeargle? 6. Like we have like 6 or 7 knockoffers right now, which is crazy. If I have item advantage over something, that is also going to be a way to edge out an advantage. Hold on. So it does get with Shield Bell, which is pretty good. It does get the screens. The attacking stats are nothing like too important to look at, but it does get Calm Mind. So if you let it be alone for too long, it can't be a problem. Like if this move pool has a good matchup, for example. But it's mostly a cleric utility. 6th slot or the 5th along with Smeargle, and pretty much amp up my hard-hitting offense or tanky defense and make it unstoppable. So that is kind of what we're using our remaining points on, is fixing these issues. But Audino, although it solves many issues, Audino is not the last Pokemon on the squad right now. In our Generation 6 Draft League Wi-Fi battle, Draft League, our last pick, the Oslo City Dragon Dancers, are going to be, or is going to be, regular Rotom. Regular Rotom. Why didn't you draft a Rotom for? Like Rotom Frost. You don't have an ice type. You need an ice resist. Looking at it now, that would be kind of nice. I mean, Rotom, the reason I drafted Rotom is because Ghost. It's Ghost. Ghost is really nice. I felt like I needed Ghost more. That ice resist, looking back at it right now, dang, that would have slotted pretty nice. But the thing is, with Ghost types, it's a pretty, for this Gen 6, it's a pretty fast Ghost. 91 speed is kind of plotting between, you know, Mega Gardevoir and the tanky stuff. Ninetales and the tanky stuff. Like, between like this and Smeargle as well. Does get a lot of utility. It's an extra electric that is ground immune, so there's another ground immunity there, which is pretty good. Very few weaknesses as well. It has the weakness to Ghost with Mega Gardevoir, but I did just add 2 immunities to that. Not too super scared about that. We also are weak to Dark. Mega Gardevoir handles most of those. Mach Punch Conkeldurr handles most of those. And it's Rapid Spin Block. That is the primarily reason why I drafted it. I don't care if it switches in and dies. It can keep 3 layers of spikes up the opponent's side. And it's not too passive because of its trick sets, because of its Will-O-Wisp set, 100% accurate T-Waves. It's another screen setter as well. And the fact that it doesn't take rocks damage, super effective rocks damage coming in, is another like benefit to it over stuff like Rotom Frost. So that it is that as well. It does have HPs. It is another Volt Switcher to get things like Gardevoir, Thundurus, Caesar, Greninja in that you turn further. Proc double regen core, stuff like that. So that is primarily what it is all about. Other than that, it doesn't really hit that hard off of base 95. Like, it's respectable, but if it doesn't hit for super effective, it's not that too much to be scared of. I do believe it gets Nasty Plot that I haven't put on here. I might have to go check that. I'm not too sure. But that is anyway Rotom to round out our Pokemon Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire Draft League squad on Wi-Fi. So excited to be using this team. So excited to be trying to pivoting around this team. I have a lot of really fun tools. I've gotten a lot of good feedback on this team, saying it has some scary pieces, which I really much appreciate. But I think this team is going to go far if you put an exceptional pilot behind it. If you put someone behind it that doesn't like have the best positioning skills in terms of, if I don't abuse Volt Switch and U-turn right and have the wrong mons in at the wrong time, I can pretty much lose the game in one turn. So I pretty much have to be very careful about who I bring, what moves I bring, where to position them, what I do at all points in the game. But this definitely, in terms of power, low tier utility, and tankiness, it's very hard to contest off rip. So I'm very excited to use this. Hopefully you guys will be cheering for me in this league. Go tell your friends that Gen 6 Wi-Fi is back. I'm so happy to announce this. And aside from that, I do hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you for sticking with me for almost an hour in this draft analysis. Appreciate it. This has been your boy Soulblaze. As always, take care of yourselves. Take care of your families. I will be seeing you in the first week of this very exciting Pokemon War.